Welcome, fans, to a long-awaited new edition of the Old School Shooters podcast. My name is Jack Kilby, Executive Vice President of Great North Wrestling, and we have an extremely special guest with us tonight who is coming back to Great North Wrestling, making his debut in Smith Falls, Ontario tomorrow night at 7 p.m. The bell time, 6 p.m., doors open, meet and greet. The one, the only British Bulldog Jr., Harry Smith, right there, live and in color, to quote The Dream. But before we get into anything else, I would be remiss if I did not introduce my longstanding co-host on the Old School Shooters podcast, the man who came up with the concept, the King of Connecticut. King, how are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing great, brother. It's great to be back with the no gimmicks dude, the Executive Vice President, Great North Wrestling, and the great Harry Smith, British Bulldog Jr. I'm excited about this. I even made myself a special drink for the occasion. Little summer cocktail, Sicilian summer cocktail. It's Aperol with Aperol with some Pinot Grigio and a little club soda, splash OJ. And, you know, speaking of old school shooters, this cocktail reminds me of a story of an old school shooter and a good friend and one of our past guests, Mr. Dan, the Beast Severn. Now, Dan, this goes back to 2012. I used to host these Feast with the Beast bar shows with Dan when we were doing our coaching clinics in South Carolina, and he was staying at the Casa at the old King's Castle. And the brewery at the time, Aviator Brewery, he created this beer for Dan called October Beast, which was like the Oktoberfest, and they kegged it. And they were so excited. They sponsored our Feast with the Beast. They forked over some cheddar, and they were so excited to meet Dan and have him try their beer. And they get to the bar. The owner of the brewery's there, owner of Aviator with Dan. He gets Dan a pint. He's so excited to have Dan's reaction. Dan sniffs it. He takes just a little bit and spits it out. And he says, no, he goes, young lady, what I'd like you to get for me is a tumbler glass, fill it with ice, pour about 3/4 rosé wine, and the rest Diet 7-Up. And that drink became known as the Dan Severn, a manly man with not so manly tastes in beverages, and it devastated those guys. But we aren't here to talk about Dan Severn. We're here to talk about Great North Wrestling and our guest, who I'm so pumped about. I want to tell a story about the time that I met his legendary father. But before I do that, I just want to say the last show up there in Canada that you and I called together, Jack, Great North Wrestling, man, it was awesome. And let me tell the fans, Great North Wrestling is not your cookie cutter modern wrestling. Not at all. You've got great technical wrestling. You don't have all the wrestlers looking the same. Some of those matches, the guys look like they come from the lumber camps, rugged guys from the lumber camps beating the hell out of each other. You're going to see some fights. You're going to see some great wrestling action. And I'm so excited to hear that there's going to actually be a match between Harry Smith and Nunzio, who, man, what a rich history both men have. You know, Nunzio from UWFI, he actually fought my friend promoter Steve Nelson in the old USWF. A lot of people don't know about that organization that the legendary Evan Tanner came out of. And we're going to have Nunzio on to talk about that. But I want to tell a story, and this story goes back to the mid-'90s. And in Connecticut, I'm from Norwalk, Connecticut, which is only a few miles from Titan Towers in Stamford. And in the mid-'90s, right after college, I had two friends who worked for Titan Towers. One was a little cutie, Missy Costabile, who did the commercial with Stone Cold Steve Austin that aired on Raw. She and I did a little spoof of that commercial a few years ago, the 20-year anniversary. And the other was my buddy Pete Riccio, who was a baseball player and a bodybuilder. And he used to let me go. He worked in the accounting department at Titan Towers and was a pretty respected guy on the business side there. He and I used to go work out at the gym. And one day, he and I and Missy, we went to lunch at Buster's Barbecue in the mid-90s, which was right across the street from WWE, from Titan Towers at the time. For people that don't know, their headquarters is right off 95 in Stamford. And we get in there, and this is a place where you can kind of load up your meat, and we're loading up a lot of protein, and we look over at the table, we see this guy, just a specimen, and I did a double take, and I recognized him as being the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith. And Pete Riccio knew a lot of the folks over there, so he introduced me to the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith. A hell of a nice guy. But we marveled at his size, at his presence, at his thickness. And man, he impressed us so much. And it was a one time that I had the absolute pleasure of meeting your dad. And I wanted to kind of tell that story to open up the show.
That's awesome. Yeah.
One thing, King, I'm going to back up before we get into some of the commentary around shoot, pro scientific wrestling, etc. Is you mentioned that Harry will be wrestling ECW original Nunzio tomorrow in Smith Falls, who also has a background in the shoot side of things. Harry, I know that the fans would be interested in finding out what your thoughts are on this match. I know it's been a very long time since you've shared a ring with the Sicilian shooter. And do you have any strategy in terms of that shoot background that he's so renowned for?
Well, certainly. Nunzio was a student of Billy Robinson's and did training with Billy in Nashville, Tennessee with Billy Scott. And I believe Gary Albright and some other guys down there at the time. So he definitely knows he knows a thing or two about a thing or two. And Billy Robinson used to always nickname him and call him Cheap Shot because he knew when to get his cheap shot in when push came to shove. And so I'm going to have to be aware of that. And I have a large size and strength advantage over Nunzio, but I'm not going to be taking him lightly whatsoever. And I think that'll be a great match, and we'll have demonstrate some scientific wrestling, pardon the term. And it should be a great match for the fans here in Great Falls. It's been a while since I've been in Ontario up here, and looking forward to sharing the squared circle with Nunzio, certainly a legend, and probably one of the best opponents right now that I can think of from the old ECW era that's still able to actively wrestle. So
you'll be in one of the two co-main events. Just wanted to get your thoughts on the other co-main event before we get into the scientific wrestling. It's good stuff.
Yeah. It looks like it.
You are familiar with Jeremy Prophet. He's our Canadian champion still. And I know that you are now becoming familiar, like the rest of the wrestling world, with Magnum McLaren. Magnum McLaren is a prodigy, to say the least. He is a high flyer. He can wrestle. He can brawl. He can literally do it all. He's well skilled beyond his years. And I'm biased because of the fact that I am part of a consortium with him and Big Daddy Diamond, known as the Big Money Players, but he has earned a shot at that Canadian title tomorrow night by cleanly and soundly defeating Wes Briscoe in the May 6th match that he had for the Great North Wrestling 15th anniversary. What advice would you give? Not saying that he needs it, of course, but as a man who has faced Jeremy Prophet in the past, what would be your insights to what Magnum should look at when he steps in the ring tomorrow night, less than 24 hours away?
I would say give him a snap suplex on the floor, because he doesn't seem to get up too good from those. I wrestled Jeremy before one time, and we spilled out to the floor, and I gave him a snap suplex on the floor, and the match ended quickly after that. Unfortunately, I don't like to ever injure another opponent, but you don't land the right way, and it's the unforgiving cement. So, I don't know if Jeremy still has back problems to this day from that. I'm sure he doesn't have too good a memory of that. So, I mean, if it spills out to the floor, it certainly goes to the advantage of his opponent. And he's got a big size advantage also. So I think that he has to also be aware Jeremy's good with submissions, and keep his probably attack him with more of a brawling style, and keep the pressure on Jeremy. And if it spills out to the floor, he's got the size advantage, use it and slam him. And but you don't want to you want to slam him on the floor, but you need to get him back in to win the title. You can't win by count out. So
absolutely. Well, there is some inside scoop, and not to say, of course, that Magnum or Big Daddy Diamond, his 7-foot bodyguard, would ever resort to any form of illegal tactics, but there's a little bit of an inside baseball, if you will, in terms of what could be a weakness on Jeremy Prophet. Before, King, I throw to you, we have a question from Mike D for Harry.
Sure.
Indicating, do you have the Funko Pop toy of your dad?
No, I don't.
There you go.
It looks cool. I don't have it though.
Yeah, it does look cool.
I like the Funko Pops are cool, but I just not big into collecting those.
Gotcha. King, over to you, sir.
Well, with the absence of Jake Shannon, Jake was going to join us for this, and I spoke to him briefly. He's with his family. He's traveling. Okay. And you know how it is. He's got, my daughter's grown, but he's got somewhat younger children. So they were at dinner, and Jake asked me to bring this up. There's the Science of Violence camps that are coming this summer. I was fortunate when I was down in South Florida, I was able to hook Jake up with King Mohammed Lawal, who's joined the team there. Very, very impressive team of coaches. You got UFC world champion Josh Barnett. You've got Wade Challis. To pro wrestling fans that don't know, I mean, Wade Challis is literally the king of pins. Yeah. Yes. And you've got Harry as one of the coaches as well. And what Jake wanted me to bring up was that Harry is going to be coaching in Orlando, Florida, and in Windsor, Ontario, the camps, the upcoming camps. So people check out Scientific Wrestling. I know, this is old school shooters. It fits right in. With that, we've had Jake on Old School Shooters, and Jake and I have done a lot of podcasts together over the last year and a half or so. I've known Jake for so long myself, and with his Shoot Pro Wrestling brand, we're working on some big stuff. I'm not going to let the cat's out of the bag, but we got some really big stuff coming with respect to Shoot Pro Wrestling. And just to explain to the fans, the Scientific Wrestling is a long-standing 20-plus year camps that Jake has done, coaching camps for catch wrestling, submission wrestling, and really started with Carl Gotch and Billy Robinson. And then Shoot Pro Wrestling was actually the brainchild of Billy Robinson. Jake and I recently did my old buddy Jerry Briscoe's podcast with JBL, we talked about Shoot Pro and man, just want to bring that up. We want to focus obviously on tomorrow. Everyone's excited. Everyone's talking about tomorrow night's show, Great North Wrestling. But with Jake not being able to join us, I just want to make sure that I brought that up.
Yeah, absolutely. And for fans, wrestlers or shooters or amateur wrestlers that want to attend, professional wrestlers especially, if they're in the Ontario area or the near Orlando, just check that out on my Instagram at DB Smith Jr. That goes for Twitter as well. And I'm under Harry Francis Smith, my real name, on Facebook. And of course, scientificwrestling.com has all the details and information you need. So looking forward to spreading that knowledge and love of submission catch wrestling on those dates as well. And we'll be seeing a little bit of that tomorrow night as I take on Nunzio right here in Great Falls.
Yeah, that's really a dream match between Harry and Nunzio. If you're a fan of great technical wrestling, that's gonna be awesome. That's gonna be awesome. And we've done that here with Old School Shooters with the guests we've had. I think our first guest was my old bud Pat Milicic, and we've had Pat's a great guy, and and Pat's gonna be working in conjunction with Jake and I on some stuff too coming up. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up with that Shoot Pro brand. Yeah. But yeah, Jack, I just want to commend you once again for creating a promotion in this modern age where a lot of us that are old school, kind of stop watching pro wrestling. We watch the old stuff. And I just want to encourage folks to listen to this program that are old schoolers. Great North Wrestling, that's the old school promotion right now in professional wrestling for the old school fan, right, Jack?
Well, we try to present a traditional pro wrestling product with some modern update, so to speak. It's not so much the dichotomy between old and new, but it's philosophy. And when we have athletes like this man here in Great North Wrestling, we're sending a message, and we're sending the message that we value athleticism and we value legit individuals that can go and translate that into the ring. You're not going to see, promos for 20 minutes where people are talking about whatever, and it goes nowhere and have a 2-minute match. You're not going to see, wrestling that doesn't make sense, that, high spot after high spot or whatever. You're going to see bell to bell action that the fans have come to expect from Great North Wrestling. And I would also like to mention at this point, hats off to Devin Hannibal Nicholson, my partner, and a man whose brainchild and baby Great North Wrestling was and remains. He pioneered this concept of hard-hitting, realistic, yet satisfying pro wrestling, not sports entertainment, not what's going on in Jacksonville, and not to say that there's not a market for any of that, but he is the one that came up with the concept that you see today. And since handing the reins over to me last year, what we're trying to do is build on that. And I think we're off to a great start. May 6th was a big success. Tomorrow night in Smith Falls, it's going to be even more so, and there's only good things to come. So all that being said, we wouldn't be anywhere without our loyal fan base in Ontario and Quebec, and actually through the Hannibal TV reach across the United States. So we're looking forward to many appearances, if we're so lucky to have Harry Smith on Great North Wrestling. And tomorrow night is just the beginning. That is you're right, King. That is a dream match. That is a dream encounter. I've spoken to Nunzio today. He's really hyped. So the fans that don't have your tickets, go to ticketweb.ca right now. Get your tickets so you don't miss out. They're available at the door, but without a word of a lie, we're very strong on the pre-sale, and I'd hate for fans to miss out.
Now, Jack, do you have a pay-per-view streaming component for the show tomorrow night?
No, it's being recorded as always for the Hannibal TV, and we are going to have that up with our commentary shortly thereafter, as per the show on May the 6th. But not to stooge off anything prematurely, we are definitely in talks to look at other avenues, and you might be surprised what you see coming up from Great North Wrestling in the months to come.
Yeah, and to backtrack just a little bit there, Jack, Hannibal's a humble guy. He's a real humble guy, but Hannibal was a phenom in wrestling in Canada. He was a national champion, and then when he had the unfortunate situation with Abdullah the Butcher, he got hepatitis. He came back and was a Olympic alternate, just barely outpointed for that spot. He's a national Canadian national open submission grappling champion as well, and he doesn't talk about that, he's a very humble guy, and really I don't think that he gets enough credit in the podcast space for really being a pioneer of what we're doing now.
Yeah, that's very true, King. He really, the shoot interview was around before, but Hannibal definitely grabbed a hold of the concept and revolutionized it, so to speak, and even brought it up to the next level. This kind of thing that we're doing here with in studio guest interviews, we hope to, with restrictions easing and the world open up, so to speak, we hope to do more of those in the future. I'd just like to, Harry, throw you a couple of fan questions before.
Yeah, I see them popping up.
Yeah. Before we go back. And that is, the year before your dad passed, you had a tag match with him, but were there plans to have matches later?
Yeah, we had one in 2001 in Calgary, but I don't think that was really televised. And then the last two were in Winnipeg week before his passing. So I was glad to share the squared circle with him, at least for those 3 times. And there were plans that just didn't, obviously didn't happen. So,
I want to share another story that relates to another member of Harry's family. And this actually goes back to one of my best friends, the late, great Stefan Bonner. So when Stefan, when I started to get Stefan into pro wrestling, I booked him for his first pro wrestling match, House of Glory, in New York City Arena. And he was supposed to face Matt Riddle. And I've said this before, Bonner and I were sharing a room in Queens, and he told me Riddle's not going to show. And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, look, dude, there's nothing on his social media, right? Nothing about he goes, I was, let's face it, Bonner Griffin, that's what made Ultimate Fighter. And Riddle came out of Ultimate Fighter, right? And there was nothing on it. So literally like 2 hours before, we get the call from the promoter that he's backing out. And he's not going to, and we said he got a case of pussy. I actually was broadcaster for that show, and I famously said Matt, and the fans were chanting, we want Riddle. And I said, Matt Riddle's not here. He got a case of the pussyitis. And we had some fun with it. And then we're in the back, and Bonner's going to wrestle Sho Tanaka. This is his first pro wrestling match. And Harry will appreciate this. Sho Tanaka had just come off of a small run with Kazushi Sakuraba Pro Wrestling in Japan. Yeah. And he had done some MMA fights. Yeah. And we were in the back with Bret Hart. He was hosting the show. Bonner and I were in the back with Bret, talking to your uncle about what was going on. And he just said, they just need to go out and wrestle. and man, they went out and wrestled, and they had a hell of a match. It's actually here on Hannibal TV. That was one of the many matches that I gave to Hannibal the Post.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, you could see the match, and it was cool, man. And that was the only time I met your Uncle Brett, and he was really cool, really, really cool with us. And I got to tell you this, one of the things he talked to Stefan about was you, and how proud the family was of you. Yeah. And Stefan said he had met you, I recall, and how proud they were of you in your grappling journey.
Yeah,
and your shoot journey.
Yeah, we Stefan came to Batista's gym in Florida like 2 months or 6 weeks out from Dave's fight, and we were going in between like rounds with Dave would do stuff with me, and then Stefan back and forth. So so Dave was getting ready, so he I think Dave had some long days on those days with because he was breaking a lot with Stefan and rolling a lot with me, which was me on top, smashing him. And Stefan was he was tearing into Dave pretty good, which that's fight camp. So Dave, man,
and it worked because Dave
it worked.
Yeah,
you're in there with two guys like him and I, like you're definitely gonna be ready. So good on him.
Yeah. So Jack, tell us any of the other matches, because I'm really looking forward to calling the matches with you tomorrow night up there. What are some of the other matches going down?
Well, we have Vance, Nevada making a return to Great North Wrestling. We have a special women's match featuring Jessica Black and Persephone Vice in a 2 out of 3 falls. Jessica out for revenge against Persephone, given the attack that occurred backstage. We have a number, in addition to the other co-main event of Magnum versus Jeremy Prophet, we have a local, very strongly promoted and a lot of interest in the Smith Falls area between the classic favorite Bruiser and Hardcore Steve. That will be a tables match. So the first man through a table in the center of the ring will be the winner. And we have a lady coming in from LA by the name of Vipress. And she is one of the talents that is really catching a lot of attention through her social media. She's coming in to have an encounter with someone by the name of Alicia P. Monroe, who is a stalwart in the province of Quebec. And it goes on and on. It's going to be a night not to forget. I'm going to take another fan question here. And this kind of is an amalgam of several questions, but the fan is pointing out that you're more than ready to main event against Roman and Cody and add your family legacy to the current storyline. So the other fans were asking, more globally, what would the potentiality be for you to make a return to that very large company and very rich company now that they've got a deal with UFC?
Oh, do they now? Like, is that for real?
Yep, a merger.
Wow.
King will speak to that more, but yeah, they're worth several billion more than they were a while ago.
Wow. Well, hey, never say never, right?
Would you be interested in that storyline?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, would that happen? I mean, who knows, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, stranger things have happened in the wacky world of combat sports pro wrestling.
Yep.
Charles is asking, do you still train with TJ and Natalie in Florida?
Not really. I haven't been down in Florida for a while. Been back in Calgary. So, it's been a while, but they have a nice training facility down there. They have all kinds of visitors that come every week from all over the place. So it's they have a good crew of guys down there. But no, I haven't been there recently.
King, with Jake Shannon indisposed, so to speak, tonight, I thought it would be appropriate for you to touch on the Shoot Pro organization and the concept for the viewers that are perhaps just catching this first edition of Old School Shooters.
Sure, man. So Shoot Pro is, as the name states, it's professional wrestling, 100% shoot, win by pin or submission. There've been 3 shows, and the first ever tag team shoot, which was enormously exciting. And Jake is based out of Colorado. So
that was the one in Denver at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 2-story. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
that
cool place, man. Cool venue.
Yeah.
Cool venue. Yeah. So Jake's so Jake's taken the brand and done a few sample shows, but we got some super exciting stuff coming up, man. We're on the verge right now of a couple major announcements for the future of Shoot Pro that are extremely exciting, and I'm not at liberty to discuss yet, but all I can say, as they say, Jack Kilby, stay tuned.
Sounds tremendous. Before we close out this mini edition of Old School Shooters, there were a couple of fan questions about your tenure in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
This being one of them, if I haven't messed it up. Okay. Talk about Tokyo Joe's training regimen and what the Sayama school in Japan is like. Have you had any sushi lately? Well, I know the answer to that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So the training with Tokyo Joe is, wow, it was something else. I think it started at about 8 or 9 in the morning, and we go for about 4 or 5 hours, and you weren't allowed to eat before. You actually couldn't really eat before because you throw up. So Joe was very sumo based, old school. He didn't care who my father was or family was. And if you were late, which, I'm habitually late my family's always late for everything. So he'd usually yell at me every day. And sometimes it wasn't my fault either. It was just, but I mean, if he was late, it was okay. But the Japs are all like that. But he was particular. So one time I remember he had me and TJ had come back from England, and he was working like the kind of the UK British style where it was in front of a lot of young kids at these holiday camps. So the matches it was a lot of entertainment based wrestling. It wasn't like he was coming back from working the Best of the Super Juniors tour for 6 weeks. And I had just come back. I'd broken my hand here. Then I was out for about 3 months. So I was weight training. That we had, I think, 3 weeks before we were going on a Japan trip together. And Joe, first day, he says, no, we'll just build up your conditioning the first week. And we went, yeah, we know how this is going to go. He always says that. And then he says, we'll just do a little bit in the ring. And then we go in the ring. And so that first day, he made us wrestle in the ring for 2.5 hours straight. No bathroom breaks. We do our finish. He'd tell us to keep going 5 more minutes, yell at us, tell us why we were the shits, why we've repeated the same move 3 times. And I'm like, Joe, we've been in the ring for 2 hours over now. And I had a really long nap after that. So it was, I've never wrestled for 2.5 hours straight, and nor do I want to ever again like that. That was something else. Sayama's gym was cool. It was more laid back because it was a private class, so it wasn't. And I would just go there when I had time in between my tours. And luckily, it was in Tokyo, so it was just a train ride away. And I got to learn a lot about a lot of kicking from Sayama, and he knew a lot about submissions, but he wasn't able to show me as much of that because I had a pretty good grasp with the work with Billy and Josh Barnett and Eric Paulson and Brian Bird from Calgary. And so, it was hard. And I got to see Sayama's, he's got a temper on him too. I could see those eyes light up when he get like super mad, and then he would calm right down. But I heard he's one to hit you with the stick, and there's YouTube footage of him giving his students, we'll just say, showing them his way of showing his love. Put it that way. So
now is that so Toro Sayama Tiger Mask?
Yeah, the original.
Yeah, he actually founded Shuto, where
Oh, yeah.
Eric Paulson was a world champion. I
Yeah.
hate to give shameless plugs, but Eric and I did a book years ago when I was out there in Fullerton called Rough and Tumble, and it's a history book, which I actually did a fan fest with Dan Severn in Jacksonville, Florida, back a couple months ago, and Eric and Bob Berge sent me some boxes of books, and I sold some books, but I have a bunch of books. If anybody wants to buy a signed copy, they can always hit me up on my social media, and I'll coordinate that.
Wanted to get one last fan question in before we ask you the penultimate old school shooters philosophical question. But Charles is asking, is perhaps not a compilation per se, but is there a best of where your matches that you're perhaps the most, I think we're talking pro wrestling matches, that you're most proud of can be found? Or could you, if there isn't such a compilation in existence, could you run down your like top 5? I know that's we had this discussion tonight too, and that's very difficult.
Yeah, it's hard because I've had great matches from a variety of different companies, but I mean, all my best matches are not on YouTube, unfortunately. Some of them just never got filmed, which is too bad. But if I had to, New Japan World, they take down anything that gets posted. So, and the ones that stay up are matches I'm not really proud of that had no meaning. So, I go with I like my debut match with Hiro Saito when I was 19 from Cork and Hall, but that's not on YouTube. My G1 Climax 2013 match with Satoshi Kojima, not the 2014, but 2013 from Osaka. The finish was just unbelievable. The timing when I missed the lariat, like I literally felt the lariat brizz by my head, and I ducked. I didn't duck down. I did like a boxer, like duck, bob and weave, and I literally felt his arm, and then I caught him with a big boot and a flying knee, and then gave him a fast power bomb. It's one of my favorite finishes I've ever been a part of. So if you could find that, I think it might be on Daily Motion, but New Japan World would have it. You have to go on there. Again, New Japan World versus my matches with Shibata, matches with Tanahashi, the Intercontinental Championship match I had with Shinsuke Nakamura, the KES matches we had against Nakamura and Ishii and Tenzan Kojima. We had a number of classics with them. Archer and I against Carl Anderson and Goto, against Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. Those were all great. And then matches with Tyson Kidd, when we beat The Miz and Big Show for the tag team championships. And then I like my match with Fit Finlay from ECW. My very last match before signing with WWE with TJ Wilson from actually was Devin's show in Cochrane, 2006. And a great match. Some of my house show matches I had with William Regal that never got filmed. Those were classics. I really liked it. And we just went in there and wrestled. No direction, just catch, just boom, wrestle, So all those were great. And my match with Wardell Walker. There's one from Old School Championship Wrestling, and that was a hidden classic, and he's a fantastic wrestler.
Well, there you go, fans. Before King, I throw it back to you for wrap-up thoughts and the inimitable tagline. I wanted to ask Harry the question that we ask all our guests. Now, normally our guests are around the same vintage, and King and I have about a decade on you, but I think given the fact that you have such a rich family heritage and you're a throwback in a lot of ways to another time when wrestlers and fighters were more straight up legit. That's why I think this question is appropriate for you. And that question is, what does the concept old school or the mindset mean to you?
This was a question for me.
Yes, sir.
Well, old school, it should be It's just bread and butter, man. Just there's no substitution for hard work, and learn as much as you can. I mean, you know, you got to learn the basics. The basics are the most important, fundamental aspect of it. And you don't learn the basics properly, you don't have that foundation. And be careful of who you hang around with, because they can rub off on you as well. So iron sharpens iron. So one man sharpens another. Make sure you train with good guys. And also, old school should be, we all respect each other. We all have respect for the wrestling business or the shooting business or whatever it is. And, you know, people are paying their money to invest their entertainment time to watch you. So keep that in mind when you're doing goofy, silly, hokey shit. And, you know, if people want to pay to see that too, I guess there's a market for that, but not what I'm looking forward to. So,
well, fans, one last reminder, go now to ticketweb.ca, grab a ticket to see this man in action as part of a stacked card, including also Nunzio. You're going to get your money's worth, and that is old school. King, final thoughts.
My final thoughts are, I want to break this battle down between Nunzio and Harry Smith. You know, I'm gonna make a prediction here. I recommend putting your money on Harry, and not just because he's our guest here, but I'm going to tell you why. You know, no disrespect to Nunzio, you know, but Nunzio is at a disadvantage in age, in size, and typically Nunzio, the Sicilian shooter, could overcome that with his background. He's got some nasty leg kicks. He's got some great submissions. He had a solid folk style background in the tri-state. Yeah. But in this case, Harry is too young. He's too big, and he's too skilled. And I recommend folks put their money on Harry Smith, and I'd say that to Nunzio too if he was here on Old School Shooters, Jack. And I just want to tell everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, we're Silver Sages spreading knowledge for the younger ages. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you, Harry. Thank you, Jack.
Thanks, King.
And fans, we will let you know when another edition of Old School Shooters will be on the Hannibal TV. Stay tuned. If you haven't already, click the subscribe button and you will get instant updates. See you all tomorrow night in Smith Falls at the Memorial Center.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for